Welcome in to the Bro Force Squad podcast, where this is no laughing matter because this is our spoiler review on The Joker. I'm Matt Geiger, along with our MCU lover Jeff Hornacek, to grade this movie on our 5 criteria: acting, story, best scene, impacts on pulp culture, and rewatchability. So, Jeff, I don't even know if you can leave anyone to me because I think only 3 people are in this movie, but I'll throw it to you for acting and cast.
Before we actually get started, I have seen worse stand-up comedians than Arthur in Joker. Like, just browse through Netflix. There's some pretty shitty stand-up comics. You're like, this guy's not that bad comparatively. I'll leave Joaquin Phoenix to you. I think you'll actually echo a lot of my same thoughts. So Frances Conroy, who played Penny Fleck, Arthur's mother in the movie, the only other thing I'd seen her in, she actually plays Barney Stinson's mom in How I Met Your Mother. And this was sort of an eerily similar way in the sense that, like, she's basically the mother of a psychopath, although a much different psychopath. And she can really portray that, like, creepy maternal figure. So I thought she was pretty good in it. And then Zazie Beetz, who played Sophie, Arthur's roommate. The only other thing I'd seen her in, again, was Deadpool 2. And her character, again, this is spoilers, but the kind of the big reveal where you realize that, yeah, she's not actually that fond of Arthur, doesn't really have a relationship with him.
That really know him.
Yeah, that was one of the most, like, tense moments of the film for me. So I thought the supporting cast did a really good job in this. My one issue, and you might echo this too, is this movie is really, really digging itself when it comes to Joaquin Phoenix's performance, and no one else really gets as much screen time as I would have liked. Was kind of one of my issues.
Well, you want to talk about De Niro really quick? Because first off, I thought he'd only be in like one scene, but he's in a lot of this movie, more so on the TV that they're watching. But he's basically the Johnny Carson of Gotham, and I thought he did a really good job. I can't name a movie where Robert De Niro has kind of Natalie Portmaned in, but I thought he did a really good job in this.
Winkle, probably.
Maybe, yeah, maybe that one. Maybe The Intern or whatever he did with Anne Hathaway.
One of the Meet the Parents, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, but I liked him in this. I thought he was really good as the talk show host, and we'll get to maybe their scene. But okay, Joaquin Phoenix. Listen, I've been on this pod saying before, just because you're a crazy ass whacked out fucking SOB that does method acting doesn't necessarily mean you're like a top 5 actor. I'm going to carry this going on. Did he do a good job? Yeah, I think him and Todd Phillips were basically just whipping out their dick this whole movie, be like, Oscar, look at me. And honestly, this is not a Joker movie. It just has the Joker on it, so then they'll get some Oscar buzz, because other than that, this movie wouldn't even be in theaters, I don't think.
We kind of said the same thing on our Venom review, I think, where, like, it's a good movie.
It's exactly like Venom.
It's a good performance, but it feels like it's using a certain character as kind of its vehicle to be more accessible and mainstream. And I know Joaquin Phoenix has talent, but this to me felt like just self-indulgent in a lot of ways. Like you said, him and Todd Phillips were just like, fuck yeah, this is great. We are loving this. And I felt like I was a film student watching it. Like, dude, I get what you're going for. It's just, it's so over the top, and like, we get it, man. Can we get some sort of a narrative here? I don't know.
So we've talked about this a lot on pod, and of course we have a pretty good background with the comics. I'm not saying we have a better background than you listening or anything like that, but we know the comics pretty well. Now, of course, you can take royalties with some of the comics, like Jeff, the MCU, where, what is it, War Machine or whoever is an actual bird that...
Falcon, yeah.
Falcon, yeah. Of course, you need to take royalties with that so it doesn't look like stupid-ass shit on screen. We get that. But when you're taking basically... I mean, he doesn't get dipped in acid. None of this stuff has been in any comic adaptation ever. You're basically just turning him into the Joker just because he's kind of a... I don't want to call it...
This was kind of like what I get so mad about the Mandarin twist in Iron Man 3.
Yeah,
this is like the equivalent of that, because he actually is a clown.
Venom, the Venom movie had nothing to do with the fucking comic either. Just like, we just need a rom-com that comes out in February, a la Deadpool. Let's type a Venom thing on it. Maybe boys and girls will go. And I'm going to say this lastly before we go on to story about Joaquin Phoenix. Did he do a good job? Yes. I thought he did a fine job. But this is not even comparable to Heath Ledger. This is D3 football, and Heath Ledger is a Hall of Famer in the NFL. I don't even think it's comparable to Jack Nicholson. And if you get enough beers in me, I could probably put up a pretty good fight, even though someone's going to laugh. This is comparable about Jared Leto either. Even though Jared Leto didn't have as much screen time. If Jared Leto was in this role, he would have done better than Joaquin Phoenix. I will say that right now, because Jared Leto is a better fucking actor than Joaquin Phoenix. And I know some people think I'm crazy, but it's probably because you've never watched any of his films. Go watch his films. But Jared Leto is a better actor. He's probably a better rapper because he's better musicianally than Joaquin Phoenix, but he's just a better talented performer than Joaquin Phoenix. Going into story, I've already said this, Jeff. This is Venom. This is Venom reincarnated that we fucking hated. There's no even hint to comic other than this taking place in Gotham and the Waynes being introduced, which makes no fucking sense because Bruce is 6 and this Arthur guy is maybe 41. I'll give you, but this story is basically, it's a good story. It's if the Vegas shooting, the Stephen Paddock guy, what would drive a person to do that? This story takes you step by step what drives a person to do that. The problem is when we get to the end, that's not what Joker is at all. Joker was a gangster. He was Red Hood, and he fell in a fucking acid bath and dyed his skin and made him fucking insane is what happened. Point blank, period. None of this stuff happened in it. But it was a good story, but it's not a Joker movie.
Yeah, is it true to the comics? I don't think so, but it is, in my opinion, a very, very interesting character study and a compelling story, man. I mean, there was tension in this movie. Now, part of it might have been like, I was just worried something crazy was going to happen in my actual theater. Thank God it didn't. But part of it was just, I think the climate we live in, this is all so like, it's just so visceral. Like this just feels so real and like a story being told in this day and age that is very, very emblematic of the times we live in. I thought as a character piece, it was great. I mean, this guy's motivation, his unraveling because he's disregarded by society, all makes sense. His mother, he and again, this is spoilers, but he learns he can't fucking trust her. She lied to him. And if she didn't, then the rest of society is lying to him. He's cast aside. He's not valued. Basically, like he has every reason to be mad at the world. And as a character piece in a film, it was interesting to see that. And I didn't know where it was going to end up. I think we might get into this in best scene, but kind of the whole third act, you're just wondering, what's this guy going to do? Like, we know he's emotionally snapped, but what's going to be the follow through on that? And that part was kind of interesting to me. So is it a comic book movie? We'll get into this a little more in Impact. I don't think so. But it was a really interesting story. I'll say that. And well-written screenplay by Todd Phillips.
We don't grade movies. But if this movie was just called like Unhinged or just something that they just made up and it was just basically about how a human could, go to shoot up a school or shoot up a church or whatever, and this is how it was that he just went and shot up his talk show because he finally had enough, I think this movie would have been an A-, and I'd be like, absolutely, give this Joaquin Phoenix an Oscar because honestly, I haven't seen a better performance this year from anyone than Joaquin Phoenix. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you call it a Joker movie to get my ass in the seat on opening night because I'm a huge DC fan. And I felt just basically like, you just wanted my money to come in here and watch this fucking art piece that you did. Is it a great movie? Is it a great story? Absolutely. But it's not the fucking Joker. That's the only reason I'm here. Other than that, I would have possibly watched it because we also do an Oscar show too. I'm just so sick of, and we can have the conversation on The Dark Knight, but it's still inviolable in the comics. The last thing I'm going to say before we run on to best scene, I think we need to stop doing movies on just like, Jeff, what if we just had a Batman movie? And I know you're about to say we had one. No, we haven't. With no Joker, no villain, just a Batman movie where he's trained, where he is dating someone. There's no villain at all.
Yeah, that's one thing I think I'll get into on rewatchability, that this has really never been done before, where there's a villain, like comic book villain, and the main protagonist is essentially not in the story because he's like 6 or 7. And so we'll talk about how well that works here in just a second because it's interesting and I'm not sure if someone will try it again.
So going on to best scene, I have 2. I want to do one first because I'm guessing the other one might be the same. But whenever he finds out that his neighbor is not his girlfriend, because the whole time I thought this is weird.
Like, why does she like him? Is what you're thinking.
Why does she like him? He lives with his mom. He's really fucking weird. And whenever he just went into his into her apartment and started making out with her, I'm like, this is very out of character for him. He has no confidence at all, and he's basically just doing something that
he's in
Brad
clown
Pitt
makeup
would do to him
when he does it, and she's a 9,
right.
So
when that happened, I thought it was not interesting wrinkle, and I kind of liked it, and also added more to the shit he has going on with him that he basically cannot conduct himself normal in society because there's so much going on. And I believe that that's something. I don't think he had like a Fight Club issue, where he is making all that up. I think that in his mind he was just playing that play out just so he can cope with life, being like, I'm gonna have this pretend girl, not a pretend girl, but this girl pretendly like me, just to
Yeah.
not make me snap. And then once it finally happened, then he was just off the deep end. I thought it was an interesting wrinkle, and I actually enjoyed it. And it's very well acted and very well written. Best scene for you.
Yeah, I agree. And mine is actually the first time in the movie where he did that, where he was watching the Murray Franklin show with his mom, and he was in the audience, and
Okay, yeah,
you can tell as it's happening, like, okay, this isn't real life. This is kind of the world he's creating
yeah.
for himself, where he's kind of the hero, where things go well for him, where he's acknowledged by somebody that he actually cares about. And that was just interesting to me to see like how what's the best way to say it? I'm not a psychologist, so this isn't going to be articulated the way I want it to, but basically how badly he just wanted someone to acknowledge him and to have an interaction with him outside of his mother. And then one other scene, I don't know if I liked this scene, if it was nostalgic or if I just don't know. It felt so fucking out of place, but when he's walking down the steps and Jock Jam starts playing,
I
I
I
was
like
like,
that too.
I don't
Oh,
know
I
how it
like
made
that
me
one too.
feel. It was interesting. Like as a I could see Todd Phillips in the editing room, like going back and forth on whether he wanted to do that. It was interesting. It's so fucked up in a way because like I used to listen to that before like an eighth grade basketball game, and this is like his equivalent, right? Like his moment where he's about to go have some fun. As fucked up as his intentions are, that's like their way of kind of painting. All right, this is how he's viewing this. Like he's the hero of his own story.
The only problem I had with that is this movie, the music in it, nostalgically was set up with the time period, and that song came out, I believe, 10 years after these events occurred.
Oh, at least.
But I don't, I guess that's kind of nitpicky. However, Jeff, I will go until I go to my final last scene. So you said he's making stuff up in his mind. In my final best scene, whenever he blows off De Niro's head, was this is what's weird about it is you can see an action film where 100 people will die in the first scene, but it doesn't feel real. But this felt, even though he only killed like 2 people in this movie, that tension when he finally blew his head off, and everyone was like, it basically reminded me of when Jack Ruby died during the JFK assassination live
Yeah.
on TV. How people would have reacted to it, and oh my god. However, the reason I wanted to say this is my best scene because a lot of people have been talking about that is something he made up in his head too, that he actually really didn't kill anyone. I wanted to get your thoughts on that because if
So
some of the stuff's not real, you can dictate that none of it's real, or you can dictate that some of the stuff could have been a longer image in his mind. So the whole third act could have been an image in his mind.
yeah, that's where he's kind of the unreliable narrator, so we don't really know. Sort of like Ted in How I Met Your Mother,
Yeah.
right? Like I hate to keep alluding to that because it could not be more different than this movie, but we don't really know what to believe because the person who we're seeing the story through is not reliable. And that's an interesting theory because then you could say like him basically being the hero of the slums of Gotham is all fabricated in his mind. All the
Yep.
news reports, are obviously made up in his own head. So maybe you can assume like when he goes to Arkham to get his mother's file, maybe he gets incarcerated then, and the whole rest of it he just imagines or something.
Yep.
It's interesting. People a lot smarter than me probably need to break down the movie and figure it out.
I think it's up for interpretation for sure. One thing that's not up for interpretation is our impacts on pulp culture. Our fourth criteria. This is going to be an interesting one, man.
So
I'm
let me
really
ask
interested.
let me ask a question before we get to like the actual cultural impact. So DC, this is a DC produced film, and them and Warner Brothers did essentially like a one-off. They were like, we want to make this movie, Scorsese produced with Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix. It's not connected to the Jared Leto Joker. Who knows? Maybe they'll try and connect it to Robert Pattinson's. They probably don't even fucking know yet. But do you think this is something that they will continue to try these one-off movies to tell a certain story and get certain creative types involved, writers, directors? Will Marvel ever try this, or is this just this one project? They're doing it, and we probably won't see it again.
See, this is a huge, deeper conversation that we could even have like on an episode or something like that, or if someone wanted to ask us a Twitter question. But when I left the movie, I kind of felt good because I'm like, dude, that's what DC should be. It should be real life, gritty, dark, and then Marvel should be, kind of the poppy fun because I like both. I like Ragnarok and I like The Dark Knight. There's
Yeah.
sometimes I'm in the mood for poppy stuff. There's sometimes I'm in the mood for dark shit, and you shouldn't want to piggyback each other. You should be two totally different. And I think that'll keep you fresh. However, the same people that praise this movie on the fucking internet are the same people that BVS was just too dark for me. Well, fuck you then. What do you want? Do you want this or do you want Suicide Squad? And to answer your question for impacts on this, I don't think anything will change because you just came from the theater, and I'm sure right before you're getting ready to see the Joker and this is going to be dark, it was like, hey, this is Harley Quinn and I'm doing another shitty movie
Oh
called
God.
Birds of Prey. I'm just like, fuck, I forgot about that. DC's going to tease my dick with this and go back to the stupid shit they've been doing the last 3 years. So I don't think anything's going to change unless, I mean, this opening weekend, man, was fucking huge for them.
Yeah, especially for an R-rated movie.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. Maybe, hopefully, someone at Warner Brothers is like, maybe we should just scrap everything and just fucking start an R-rated universe. And I think that would have some legs, honestly, because they just have darker comic material. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? I just don't think it'll change that much.
I mean, if you look at DC's best movies, they've been the ones where they just steer into what are we? Our comics are darker, they're grittier, they're character pieces. And no, it's not as accessible and mainstream, but those are all the best movies they've made. All three Nolan Batmans, the Tim Burton Batman, and even the second one, like Man of Steel for the first hour and 30 minutes of it. I mean, stick with what you are. Don't try and be something else with your characters. So I would like more of this. Probably a whole universe. I don't think it's going to happen. I would especially like if DC could do like a streaming service where they do like dark shows that are connected to each other, or even their movies like this. This particular film, though, like I think it really did need a protagonist. Like I needed Batman in there somewhere, or so. I mean, just seeing the villain side of the story and his like unraveling got a little emotionally draining for me, especially like that third act is really, really tense, but getting there was tough. And I don't mean like I was bored. I just mean like, dude, it's like heavy, heavy stuff. And when there's never a scene where it's Bruce in the cave talking to Alfred or him kicking the shit out of some thugs to kind of like let you take a breath, it's just like a lot to put on an audience. So this formula, I don't think is something that can be replicated over and over again, but I would like to see them go back to the tone of this type of movie.
So it brings up a question is, I think we both agree that we like the Heath Ledger version better. So let's just say after The Dark Knight, Heath was still alive and they just did this movie with Heath. Would we be saying the same thing? Would we be saying like, all right, man, this Heath Ledger Joker, I could watch him for hours. And then after you watch him for hours, I'm like, I need a little Bale or something else. Cause after a while, I think, I don't think it matters who it is. You need someone else in the movie to help carry it because that's what a comic book is. There's a protagonist, there's a hero. Now, just like Star Wars, you can think the Empire is correct and hate the rebels. Like you can flip sides and like the villain, but you need that yin and yang, I think, just to make a good story where people want to watch for 2 hours.
And I think with the Joker, what's always made his character so fun to watch is the way he fucks with Batman, you know? Yeah. Like him just being psychotic on his own is interesting for a little while, but eventually I want to see him mess and get in the head of the guy who we presume to be basically invincible and the smartest guy in the room in Batman. That's the fun dynamic that we want to see.
It's give and take. It's just like the Broforce Squad. Say your favorite character's Banner, but would you want to just listen to Banner do a 2-hour movie commentary? I mean, after a while, you need Jeff or me or Thurman or someone in there to do give and take, and that's why we don't do one movie commentaries, because we need 2 or 3 of our bros in there just to keep it fresh and do something different and get someone's different take. Just my opinion. Going into rewatchability. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say very well said about commentaries.
So going into rewatchability, I'm going to compare this to one movie, and it's not a bad movie. I love the movie. It's Scarface. Scarface, the first time I watched it, I'm like, this is a good fucking movie. Very well acted, very well story told. Never watch it again, but I will watch the third act all the fucking time. That is this movie. I will never watch this again start to finish, fucking ever, because my wife watched it with me, so I have no reason to watch it again start to finish. And you watched it, so I already did a fucking review on it. And there's no way we'll do a commentary on this. So
No.
I will watch the third act though. If it's on FX, I will watch that because it is fucking dark and it is crazy. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, you know what? DC finally did something that I approve of, and they went dark and they went there and they went rated R. But I will never watch this all the way again through. There's just not much of a story there for me to. I don't. If you're somebody that feels like this person, I think it's something that you might dig. It takes too long to get to the third act for me.
Yeah, same way. If I ever watch this again, I'm in a bad spot. I'm having a rough go of it. It's heavy. It's very, very heavy. And I just don't know if I can put myself through that again. I appreciate what it's trying to do. It's a good piece of filmmaking, but it's not something you pop in like a Saturday at all. And that's what it wants. I don't think it wants to be that. So I'm not saying that it hit its mark, but it's not a movie that I cannot imagine this movie will do well on Blu-ray at all. Just because it's not the type of movie people want to rush out and buy and go watch again.
Is this a thriller? Do you think this is a thriller? Wouldn't this be labeled a thriller?
Probably. Thriller, drama.
So before Todd Phillips starts jerking himself off too soon, I want to make this last point about this movie. I think it's fine. I think it's very well done. I even think it deserves an Oscar nom. There's a lot of movies coming out until February. But I will say this. Get Out was also a thriller that's supposed to make you feel something at the end of the movie. I felt way more for way longer extended time after the end of Get Out than this movie. I'll say that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of
people
people agree with me.
That ending to Get Out when the cop car pulls up still sticks with me. And I'm a Caucasian male, so what is it? That tells you how hard it hit. That tells you how hard it hit.
All right, guys. We've been the Bro4 Squad. Check us out on our website, bro4squad.com. We're also at Twitter. Tweet at us at Bro4Squad. Subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube so you don't miss any of our content. And we're also on Letterboxd. Jeff writes a bunch of reviews, so follow us on there. And comment below what you guys think. Obviously, just because we liked it, we didn't think it was as good as a lot of people were giving it, but that's just our opinion. You guys have yours. Let it be known. Comment below. If you have any questions, tweet us at Bro4 Squad. We'll answer them on our next episode. Until then, I'm Matt. He's Jeff. Catch you around the theater.
He had a pretty decent knock-knock joke. I mean, those are tough to pull off. To have the balls to go up as a stand-up comic and do one.
I mean, yeah, De Niro's face was wide open when he told it to. It really got a reaction.
His jaw hit the floor.